Jonah Phillips, JONAHPHILLIPS, and I was in the Navy from 2008 to 2012.
And you're up, buddy.
Okay. Where and when were you born?
I was born in Rolla, Missouri, February 21st, 1990.
And what do your parents do for a living? Do you have any siblings?
I got two sisters. I'm the middle child. An older sister's 23, she's 24. The younger sister's 11. And my mom's a stay-at-home mom. She's going to school to be a teacher. And my dad, he did 20 years in the military, and he does heating and air conditioning now.
What were you doing before you entered the service?
High school.
High school?
If you can count it as doing it, I don't know. I went to high school.
Okay. Well, any other family members that entered the military of any sort?
I got an uncle that did 4 years in the Army. I got another uncle that's in the Royal Navy in England.
Okay.
So that's pretty cool.
Yeah. Did you draft or enlist in the service?
I enlisted.
Okay. Describe why you chose the Navy over the Army or the Marine Corps.
My dad did time in the Army and the Navy, and he always told me that the Navy treats their people a little better. Not that it's any easier or harder or anything like that, but just that treat them more like a human being rather than a piece of government equipment in the Navy. So,
what was it like training for boot camp your first few days there?
oh, it was crazy. You go through a mental state where you think you're dreaming, and you just think everything's a big mistake. And I mean, everybody goes through this thing where they just try to think of ways to get out of it. I mean, I thought about acting crazy to get out of it. And then after a few days, you settle in and you realize that it's not so bad, and you take it one day at a time. Don't look at it as the whole long boot camp, just a couple days at a time, and you get through it.
What kind of training did you guys do over in the Navy?
Oh, I did all sorts of stuff. We do a lot of stuff in the Navy is preventative. If you notice, you don't really see a lot of naval battles on TV like you do stuff, from Marine Corps. They're always in firefights, but you don't see that a lot in the Navy. It's because we've built a vision to where other people see us as a threat, and that's what we keep it as. A lot of our training and stuff, when we go out on deployment, isn't so much to go and take care of a battle or some situation, but to just sit there and be a visual deterrence for any kind of aggression stuff. So all of our training is just practicing and practicing and practicing. So, when it comes time for something that does happen, it's just second nature to you.
Okay. What was it like adapting to the military life, like food, social-wise, where you lived, how the day went about?
It's hard, especially some of the commands I was at. You get entrenched in the military lifestyle, whether you're willing to or not, and you got to let go of a lot of, gifts, that you get given, in the civilian sector. You got to just let go of a lot of things, simple things like getting on the computer and, talking to your mom or your friends on Facebook or something like that, going through long stints of not being able to use a phone or any kind of stuff like that. The work hours are just absolutely insane. So, you just get used to not having a lot of free time to do any kind of personal stuff.
Where did you serve?
Started out in Chicago, where I went to boot camp, and then I went to Charleston, South Carolina, and I trained to be a nuclear machinist mate. And then after that, I went back to Chicago and trained to be an engineman, and then eventually landed in Mayport on a frigate, the USS Underwood, and then transferred to Naval Air Station Jacksonville.
What kind of action did you witness being on a...
I didn't really see much action, I won't lie. I got the frigate. I broke my leg soon after going there, so I got to go out, but I didn't really get to do anything real fun. But it was all right.
How did you feel about the combat sort of being in the Navy?
Well, you gotta remember that if you ever are in a situation like that, it's different. I see it different when you're on the front lines with a gun, and you can protect yourself from what you need to protect yourself from, and if you were good enough, I think that you can always tend to survive, if you want to call it that. On a ship, if someone gets shot, the whole ship's going down. You don't shoot one person on the ship, you shoot the ship. And, if things go from bad to worse, the whole thing's going down. It's not one person, you're not able to protect yourself. Everything's just about protecting the ship. And, if that thing gets hit, you have no choice but, to go down with it. So you got to keep, I guess, that mentality that, you have no ability to fight for yourself, just for the ship.
Did you make any friends, and what was it like being away from your home friends and making new friends in the Navy?
Well, I think I have some of the best friends in the world here. And going in, I never thought I'd make any really good friends or anything like that. But you quickly realize that the friends you make in the military and the Navy are a different breed of friends, because you know that you rely on that person, to save your life just as much as they rely on you to do so. And it forms a kind of a special bond. And I ended up meeting a lot of really, really good guys. Some of them I still keep in touch with, and some of them come and visit me before, 1,000 miles away, come to stay at my house or whatever. And it's been pretty cool. And I guess I was the youngest. When I joined, I was 17, so I was kind of the young guy in all the group of friends I was in. And I guess they kind of were like brothers to me in a way. They kind of raised me through everything. And, as I was having more difficult times with some of the adjustments, because I was so young, they helped me through a lot of that.
How did you keep in touch with your family and friends while you were away?
I didn't much when I first came. When I was in nuke school, it was just school all day. It's one of the hardest schools in the country, and I wasn't able to really keep in touch with a lot of my friends. Family was every now and then, and you kind of start to realize who's your real friend, because when you come back on leave and you haven't talked to people in 6 months and they're waiting at the airport for you, it makes you feel pretty good, and like you have some really good friends. So it was always tough, but it got better towards the end of my service. I got a little more freedom. So
what did you do, well, let's say for fun, when you were not on duty?
I did all sorts of stuff. We used to go to the driving range all the time and screw around. Any city that we were in, we'd always go and find, the things that the people like to do there. We went and we always used to rent canoes. It sounds kind of stupid, but there was a section of water, and we'd always go rent canoes and tip over the canoes and have to get saved and stuff like that. And I don't know, just anything that normal guys would want to do. Go-karts. Go-karts were fun.
Where were you when you ended your service in the Navy? I
was at Naval Air Station Jacksonville. I worked for the executive department. It's where the commanding officer and the executive officer are. I was the building manager there, so pretty much ran all the safety requirements and stuff like that for the entire building. And that was when I was on my shore duty portion. So,
how did you return home?
A day before I was due for my EAOS, which is the end of your enlisted service, I got a medical discharge for the leg that I broke originally. I had to have a surgery on it, and it wasn't healing right, and they medically discharged me one day before my day to get out anyways. So me and my wife just packed up everything and came back.
How did your friends and family react when you were fully done with the Navy, when you came home?
For all of us, it was just it's a big adjustment. As hard as it was and as uncomfortable as you feel most of the time in the service with the lifestyle, you do get used to it, and subconsciously you, I guess, tend to enjoy the regiment and the solid nature of what your schedule is. And you come back, and then you got time to yourself, and your friends are there, that you relive in high school with and stuff like that. It's definitely different. It's fun, but then you start to realize that you miss a lot of the things in the service that you never ever thought that you would miss.
What was it like readjusting back to a civilian life, coming from, going back to work here and not being at work in the Navy?
It's hard. I could tell my boss a lot of things that I couldn't tell him in the Navy. In the Navy, you get known more for your rank, and it's kind of a weird system, if I guess the good old boy network kind of applies, which is good. It worked out for me, but a lot of times, you work harder than some people and things like that, but you don't necessarily get the opportunities or the credit that you deserve because someone else wears a higher rank than you. Coming back to civilian sector and starting work here, notice that the harder I work, the more benefits I reap out of, where I work. And that makes it pretty cool that I can actually, fend for myself and that, I let my name be built on how well I work, not, what rank's on my shoulder.
Have you kept in contact with any of your other shipmates?
Yeah, there's a couple of them I still keep in contact with. One of them's he's on the most high-class secret submarine in the world, and it's pretty cool. I get to talk to him and try to divulge secrets out of him when he won't tell me. And then I got a couple others that are on a carrier, and they're always gone, so it's kind of hard to keep in touch with them, but through emails and stuff like that, you eventually get a response. But my one friend that's on a submarine is probably the one I talk to the most, and he was probably my best friend while I was in.
How did being in the Navy affect you as a person, and how do you think it makes you who you are today?
You definitely grow up really fast when you go into something like that. It changes the mindset that you have of what's cool, what's right. A lot of people back home, as I would come home on leave, oh, let's go out drinking, and you think about it and you think, well, don't you guys do anything else? And I guess you mature a little faster. You grow out of a lot of the more adolescent activities a little faster, and now when I'm back, I've done things that most of my friends won't ever do, until they're maybe 40s, as far as, buying a house, maybe getting married, things like that, I enjoy doing because I did grow up a little faster. And it's mostly good, but there are, down parts to growing up fast. You miss out, I missed my graduation for high school. I left high school a semester early because I graduated early, and, it's something I don't know if I necessarily regret, but if I had a chance to go back, I would have waited to come in the Navy until at least I got to go to my graduation. So that's something, growing up isn't so cool whenever you miss something like that because you never get to go back and do that.
What did your parents think about you enlisting in the service?
My dad, it was different because him serving 20 years, I always thought that at some point he would talk to me about, have you ever thought about the military or something like that. He never ever had that talk with me. He never wanted to put any pressure on me to feel like I had to follow in his footsteps to be successful. And I made the decision to subconsciously, I think, way before I ever, actually signed the paperwork. And I just, for some reason, my path in life, it was just taking me that way. And, eventually I just signed the paperwork, but it was already said and done in my mind before. And, I was so confident in what I wanted to do and how I wanted to do it, and I got into the most advanced program in the Navy. So, although, they didn't really enjoy the thought of me, possibly going to war and all the other things that come with the military, they did like that I, picked the most advanced program, and I was going to have, a successful life after the Navy. And, I guess begrudgingly they knew that, I had to grow up at some point, and it was a decision I had to make.
How do you feel about the Marines and the Army being in the Navy?
There's a lot of people, I won't name branches, but there are a lot of people that like to pick out, certain qualities of different branches and say, oh, well, you guys do this, or, you guys do that, making fun of them. And a lot of people look down on other branches. Two of my best friends are in the Army, and, they both talked to me and confided in me, before they joined. And, you can't deny that those people, in the Marine Corps, in the Army, are doing things that I don't want to do. Nobody wants to do until you have to do them, and that's what they're doing. And, so from my standpoint, I've never, ever looked down on another branch like that, because I know that, my safety is here on a ship, that most countries are scared to death to even, fire a weapon at, when they're out there, dodging bullets all day long. And, that's not something I want to do. And it takes a lot tougher person than me to do that.
What are the lessons that you've learned, and how does it feel to know that you've done your time in the military, and, what life lessons have you learned from being in the Navy?
It's pretty cool to know that I'm already done with a 4-year enlistment. I just turned 22. I was actually 21 when I got out. So, yeah, I did leave when I was 17, but a lot of my friends have a year in the Army now. Those two buddies, they have 1 or 2 years in the Army, and they're looking at, being 24, 25 till they get out. And I'm back now. I'm enjoying life, and, I've given my time, and I can always say I've done that. It's pretty cool to, even a situation like this, to get asked, to do an interview like this. It makes me feel, good that I've actually done something. And, as far as life lessons go, I guess you just learn that there's never a perfect time to do anything in your life. If you would have asked me, when I was in, if I wish, I would have waited to join, I would have said yeah. But if you always spend life thinking about, I'll wait till I'm financially stable, I'll wait till I'm older, I'll wait till I have more money, and I'll do this, I'll wait till I get done with college, and I'll do that. You're never going to do anything in life. And, some of the best things I've done were just from jumping in and doing them, and you learn that, you get through it.
What are the achievements that you have earned from being in the Navy?
I got a few commanding officer recommendation awards. One of them was from finishing top in my class, and the other one was for taking care of a high-ranking officer when he came to base. And I qualified expert in pistol and rifle, which was pretty cool. I like shooting. I don't know. I guess I completed one of the hardest schools in the world. With Nuke School, they rank it as second in the world as far as if it was a degree program next to MIT. So that's a pretty cool achievement that I can hang my hat on, when I go home.
How did you feel when you had to do all your combative training?
Stressed. I guess probably one of the more intense training sessions you have. I don't know, I guess I can't tell you everything, but it involves overnight. You stay up for 2 days straight, and they put you in some crazy situations where you really can get hurt. And although it's training, I've seen people get hurt, cut, like deep cuts and limbs, burn themselves. Saw people nearly drown. There's people that have died doing it. So when you're in a situation like that and you haven't slept in a couple days, your mind, you find out really what you're made of, because your mind's going to go to something. And if it goes to running away, then you can't handle it. But you find out that your mind, can handle a lot more than you think it can in situations like that.
Do you feel like that makes you a bigger or tougher person from going through all of that?
Oh, I think anybody can do it. I think it's a mental game, like I was saying about your mind. A lot of it is physical, but I've seen some of the wimpiest people, surpass me or anybody else in boot camp that was, all physically fit coming in, or any time in the Navy. And I think it's just more of a mental game. Anybody that can set their mind to it can do it.
Do you feel like you could go back again, do another couple years of service?
Yeah, I feel like I could. Like I said, I didn't think I missed anything. I missed a lot of things about it. There was pretty special things that meant a lot to me that I didn't realize until now when they're gone. And I'd say if I got a phone call from my old commanding officer today and he said, I need you back, I would probably go back.